What's new about South Africa? You're always working for something new, new products, and your style is a little different. So what do you have to say about this?
We've got some really, really interesting new stuff coming out for South Africa. One of the things that we looked at very, very carefully this year was specifically our younger travel market. We've seen a whole lot of youngsters coming in saying, we don't want to spend a cent on something that we're not going to use. So we had to repackage. We had to explain to our travel trades and help our travel trade how do we do 10 experiences for our youngsters in a day. We do 6 experiences before lunchtime in Cape Town. So the whole way the packaging has been changed. And I think with GST coming in, people are getting smarter about how they package. Your big ticket items is not accommodation anymore. We've had to come up with alternative avenues to accommodation. And then for our middle of the range packaging, we had to push a little bit outside of the metros. We have a problem with availability during the December season. Our market books really, really late, so they go up in a high season where there is limited availability. So to push that business out to the garden route, to push it out to the Mpumalanga areas, where it is a little bit quieter, where there still is availability.
The products you're marketing to the youth.
Marketing to the youth is an interesting one because the first thing they say to us is that we don't want to just see things, we want to do things. So it's all very experiential, whether it is from the adventure activities that they do, Table Mountain for example, the rest of the people take the cable car. We see with our youngsters they like walking up the mountain. With our safaris we see that a lot of people go on game safaris, they get onto the vehicles. Our youngsters want to do vet safaris, they want to volunteer with the penguins. They literally want to touch, feel and contribute. So it's a lot more experiential experience that they expect from a holiday than what our older generation is expecting. The other thing that we pick up a lot out of India as well is that people want to come back with a qualification. They want to go to South Africa and come back as a qualified skydiver, as a qualified scuba diver. Because we have so much adventure, it is relatively cost effective to do it in South Africa. It is incredibly safe and it is an international qualification. So we see a lot of that, the whole idea how they look at a holiday has changed.
Great. Which part of India you are marketing? 2 tier, 3 tier cities. Are you targeting those as well?
We do a lot of work in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. We're one of the first boards that moved into Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. We've been there. We did Learn SA 7 this year. So we've been there for the last 5 years. And we do see, we see our growth out of Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities is sitting at 57% last year. What is nice for us is that we're narrowing the channel a little bit. We're making sure that people in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities deal with agents that have got direct contact to South Africa. So it's better for the value for money, it's better for the total experience, it puts more product in the market. Just working in Tier 2 and Tier 3s, 5 years ago we had 25 products from adventure and experiential point in the market. Now we've got over 3,000. So it's really, we see a lot of growth out of Tier 2 and Tier 3. It's also spilled over into our marketing. We do a lot of work that is not in English. We do a lot of work that's in Hindi, that's in Tamil, Gujarati, Marathi. So we do go and try to speak to people's hearts. If you want to speak to people's hearts, you've got to speak in their first language. So even from a marketing point of view, we've tried to cater for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities.
A lot of Indian travels in December. What would you like to advise them where they can go?
Our big travel season, funny enough, is April, May, June, July, which is perfect because it is low season in South Africa. 80% of the Indian market books less than a month in advance, and that is for all destinations. It does become a problem where we have the bottleneck, specifically with Cape Town in December. So we've done a lot of work this year with postings, with trading to get people to use the rest of the garden route. For Cape Town, the best thing I can say to you is book now. It is peak season in South Africa. All the South Africans are on holiday. Europe is having a winter, they always have winter in December, so they're all in South Africa over that period. Make sure that you get your bookings in early.
Besides Cape Town, do you suggest some other part of South Africa where they can go in winters?
Obviously, Kruger is a big, it's summer in South Africa in December, but Kruger is always a big draw card. And what we've seen more is that people are spending, instead of flying into Kruger, they're doing a self-drive or they're doing a drive with a driver guide back. There are so many really incredibly scenic beauty. You're going past 28 waterfalls, you're going past natural potholes, you're going through a mining museum. There's an enormous amount to see on the route. We see people are pushing out a little bit more north as well. Because always with Cape Town was our anchor tenant. Now suddenly we're seeing a lot of the business moving up north. We also see a lot of the business doing a drive between Durban and Johannesburg, where they go through the Drakensberg, the Mountain of the Dragon. It's a World Heritage Site. It's very beautiful, incredibly scenic. You can breathe when you're there. And Indians understand hill stations. So you have the hill stations, added to that you have the wildlife as well as the adventure, as well as a huge arts and craft route. So it becomes a 360 experience for people. They can stay in the middle of the mountains and still do all these things that you normally can only get at a city or a metro. And that has been a big growth area for us as well.
How safe South Africa is?
Let me put it to you this way. We carry a very, very big family market, and 50% of our business is return. People would not go back to South Africa if they didn't feel safe. So the proof of the pudding's in the eating there.
Now, people talk of wildlife and the connectivity.
Yeah.
So I need these two things from you, about connectivity and wildlife in South Africa.
And
Wildlife in South
wildlife. Connectivity, we do not have direct flights, but we're very, very lucky in that we do have quite a bit of connections. Obviously, you can go over the Middle East, Emirates, Etihad, Qatar. Africa gives us really good connections. Kenya, Ethiopia, and Rwanda Air is now running a special of 22,000 rupees return out of Mumbai, Seychelles, Mauritius. The list goes on and on and on. And a lot of them have changed their connectivity time to make it easier for Indians to go to South Africa. So yes, we would love the direct flights, but at the moment we're not battling too much with connectivity. We're not battling too much with seat availability. So we have that you can go into Johannesburg, Cape Town or Durban directly. From a wildlife point of view, we've seen a little bit of a shift. Wildlife is an anchor tenant in South Africa. We're known for our wildlife, we're known for our variety. We've seen a little bit of a new trend in that when people do wildlife, they want to get closer to the wildlife. So we see a lot more volunteering thing. We see a lot more people doing vet safaris, where they can actually contribute to the wildlife. We've also seen a very big part of our Indian travelers doing marine safaris. They want to see the whales, the dolphins, the sharks, the seals, the penguins. So for them, that is a really nice add-on. And then a lot of them do the Eastern Cape, where they have what they call the Big Seven safaris. So you have the big five from the land that everybody knows, and the whales and the sharks. So it is a really, really nice addition for us to our normal wildlife program. We have marine reserves in South Africa. They run exactly the same as a game reserve, but they're just in the ocean. So we don't allow fishing unless it's on a hand line. We don't allow any motorized crafts. So for divers or people that just really want to experience the marine life, it is the perfect place to go to.
Connectivity within South Africa.
Johannesburg and Cape Town is probably one of the busiest routes in the world. We have a lot of full-service and low-cost airlines in South Africa, and it is relatively cheap to travel from one point to the other. People also need to remember that South Africa's only got 53 million people. So to move through our airport is a lot quicker than moving through any Indian airport. You can arrive an hour before your flight, and you have ample time to check yourself in, get through security, have a cup of coffee, and then board. No, we do not deal with the volumes of traffic that our Indian guys deal with. We see a lot of people doing road transfers. Less cars on the road in the whole of South Africa than what we have in Mumbai. Easy to drive, easy to navigate, signage all in English. We drive on the same side of the road. We accept Indian driver's licenses. So road and air is probably our two main ones. We do see a little bit of an uptake this year and last year on rail, specifically the Blue Train, which is a luxury electric train, and Rovers Rail, which is an old-fashioned steam train, handmade wooden carriages. India does have a little bit of a love affair with rail. You guys own the title of some of the nicest rail in the world. So it's nice for us that we see that the Indians rate those two trains as worth doing when they're in South Africa.
And Indians are foodies. So, and what's with the food in South Africa?
I think one of the things that Indians and South Africans have got in common is that we express love by feeding people. So wherever you go in South Africa, they're trying to feed you. We are the third biggest exporter in the world of fresh fruit and vegetables. So we've got vegetarian food is mainstream in South Africa. You can go into a steakhouse type of environment and you'll find vegetarian food on the menu. You would also find vegan food on the menu. We have a lot of Jain vegetarian restaurants in South Africa. We also have a lot of Jain vegetarian food that is not Indian. So you can go to French restaurants and get Jain vegetarian food. You can go to Italian restaurants. We did a specific training with the chefs for that. So it's a really nice addition for us to the experience for Indians when they come to South Africa. That they have different food, but very similar in some instances as well. There's a lot of people that go to our Indian restaurants. They will recognize the biryani, they would recognize the kachar roll, but it will have a South African twist, and that's always nice. So you can be adventurous even when you feel today is the day for Indian food.
Thank you so much.